shut your ass up. You talk way too much, bro. You talk way too much.
Yeah. In the world of boxing, emotions often run high, and the recent press conference between Errol Spence Jr. Gervonta Davis. What began as a seemingly friendly event quickly spiraled into chaos, culminating in the shocking arrest of Gervonta Davis. This script delves into the events that transpired, the underlying tensions between the fighters, and the implications for their upcoming bout on September 28th. At the start of the press conference, Errol Spence Jr. Gervonta Davis appeared to be in good spirits. Both fighters smiled, exchanged light-hearted banter, and seemed to enjoy the pre-fight hype. The camaraderie on display suggested that this would be a straightforward promotional event. However, beneath the surface, tensions were simmering. The atmosphere shifted when Errol Spence Jr., in an attempt to assert his dominance, told Davis to be quiet. Spence was visibly frustrated by Gervonta Davis' constant talking, feeling that it was unnecessary and disruptive. His words were meant to silence Davis, but instead, they ignited a fire. The situation escalated when Spence Gervonta Davis in a way that many perceived as disrespectful. This act of perceived mockery was the breaking Gervonta Davis. Gervonta Davis, unable to contain his anger, sprang from his chair and attacked Errol Spence Jr. The room erupted into chaos as officials and security personnel rushed to separate the two fighters. What was meant to be a controlled and promotional event had devolved into a physical altercation. The incident highlighted the deep-seated animosity between.
But you're a fighter, it can be either one. It don't matter to me.
Yeah, you heard, but you don't fight nobody, bro.
Okay.
To understand the intensity of this altercation, we must look at the events leading up to the press conference. Errol Spence Jr. Gervonta Davis, once friends and mutual supporters, had a relationship that had soared over time. Their early days in boxing were marked by camaraderie and mutual respect. Spence often Gervonta Davis' potential and talent, while Davis looked up to Spence as a mentor and role model. From Davis's perspective, Spence's criticisms were unfounded and unjust. Davis believed that Spence was underestimating his abilities and dismissing his accomplishments. He felt that Spence's comments were not just about boxing, but were personal attacks meant to undermine his confidence and credibility. Davis's response was to confront Spence head-on, both verbally and, as the press conference incident showed, physically. As both fighters climbed the ranks in their respective careers, the dynamic between them began to change. Success brought with it a shift in priorities and attitudes. Spence's once supportive comments turned into critical assessments of Gervonta Davis' skills. Spence began to publicly Gervonta Davis' boxing abilities, suggesting that Davis relied too heavily on his punching power and lacked the depth needed to be a true champion. During the press conference, Errol Spence Jr. did not hold back his opinions. He openly stated that the press conference was a waste of time because, in his mind, he already knew who would win the fight. Spence Gervonta Davis, claiming that Gervonta Davis did was talk excessively and lacked real boxing skills. According to Gervonta Davis, nothing more than a hard puncher with no other significant attributes in the ring. These comments were not just criticisms. They were direct attacks on Gervonta Davis and credibility as a boxer. Gervonta Davis, known for his fiery temperament, did not take Spence's comments lightly. He challenged Spence's assertions, pointing out that no one could predict the outcome of the fight before it happened. Davis expressed his belief that he would emerge victorious on September 28th, regardless of Spence's predictions. He emphasized that actions in the ring, not words at a press conference, would determine the true Gervonta Davis. Confidence was palpable, and he made it clear that he was ready to prove Spence wrong. The deterioration of the relationship between Spence and Davis was a gradual process. In their early careers, Spence was Gervonta Davis' biggest supporters. He often spoke highly of Gervonta Davis, praising his ability to set traps for opponents and his impressive punching power. Spence admired Gervonta Davis' intelligence and viewed him as a talented and formidable boxer. However, as both fighters achieved greater success, Spence's perspective shifted. He began to see Davis not as a talented peer, but as a rival. The public nature of their careers meant that their interactions were often scrutinized by fans and media alike. Spence's once positive comments turned into pointed criticisms, and he started to highlight what he perceived as Davis's shortcomings. This shift in attitude did not go unnoticed by Davis, who felt betrayed by someone he once considered a friend and mentor. The tension between Spence and Davis can also be seen as a form of psychological warfare. Both fighters understand the importance of mental strength in the sport of boxing. Spence's comments were likely intended to get inside Davis's head, to shake his confidence and make him doubt his abilities. However, Davis's aggressive response showed that he was not willing to be intimidated. Instead of backing down, Davis chose to confront Spence, sending a clear message that he would not be bullied or disrespected. The physical altercation at the press conference has far-reaching implications for both fighters. For Gervonta Davis, the immediate consequence was his arrest for assaulting Errol Spence Jr. This incident could have legal ramifications and affect his ability to compete in the scheduled fight. It also raises questions about his temperament and ability to handle pressure. The incident has already garnered significant media attention, with fans and pundits weighing in on the altercation. Public perception of Davis may shift, with some viewing him as a hot-headed fighter unable to control his emotions, while others may see him as passionate and fiercely competitive. For Spence, the incident portrays him as a provocateur who pushed Davis to his breaking point. It remains to be seen how this will impact their public images and the narrative leading up to the fight. Promoters and officials now have the challenging task of managing the fallout from the press conference. They must ensure that both fighters remain focused on the upcoming bout and that any further incidents are avoided. The promotional team will likely emphasize the intensity and rivalry between Spence and Davis to build anticipation for the fight. But they must also ensure that the event remains safe and controlled. As the September 28th fight date approaches, both fighters will need to focus on their preparations. Errol Spence Jr. will likely continue to use psychological tactics to gain an edge over Davis, while also refining his boxing strategy to counter Davis's powerful punches. Spence's ability to stay calm under pressure will be crucial in the lead-up to the fight. Gervonta Davis, on the other hand, will need to channel his aggression into his training and preparation. He must work on maintaining his composure and not letting Spence's comments affect his performance. Davis will likely focus on his punching power, but he will also need to demonstrate his boxing skills and strategic thinking to counter Spence's criticisms. The upcoming fight between Errol Spence Jr. and Gervonta Davis promises to be a high-stakes, emotionally charged event. The press conference incident has added a layer of drama and intensity that will undoubtedly draw in fans and media attention. Both fighters will enter the ring with something to prove, and their performances will be scrutinized more than ever. Regardless of the outcome, the fight between Spence and Davis will be a defining moment in both